Good morning. This is your Barbados Today Morning News Update for Monday, January 13. The money laundering trial involving former Government Minister Donville Inniss is set to begin today at a federal court in New York. Inniss, who has strongly maintained his innocence, has been accused by the United States of accepting bribes from the Insurance Corporation of Barbados Limited in 2015 and 2016 while he was Minister of Industry, International Business, Commerce and Small Business Development. The U.S. alleges that ICBL paid him $36,000 to use his authority to ensure that the firm's million-dollar contract with the state-owned Barbados Industrial Development Corporation was renewed. The U.S. Attorney's Office alleged that he conspired to hide the payment by having the money sent to a New York dental company, then into his bank account through a number of transfers. Charges are expected to be laid soon in the shooting death of Oscar Nerd Hamblin that occurred more than a year ago. Police at the Major Crime Unit reported last night that they had made a significant breakthrough in the investigation in the crime, which occurred on December 21, 2018 in the city. 83-year-old Hamlin of Block 7C, Neptune Road, Deacons Farm, St. Michael, was at Palmetto Street playing a game of dominoes when he was killed. The Congress of Trade Unions and Staff Associations of Barbados wants Minister of Education Cynthia Bradshaw to urgently intervene in a matter at the Princess Margaret Secondary School, which it deems unfair and questionable. CIDUSA President Edwin O'Neill made the call as he told members of the media during a press conference at the weekend that the union was puzzled that the decision by the Board of Management to fill the vacant post of Secretary-Treasurer has been stalled.
It has also been reported that the officer has subsequently been issued with a letter of suspension without full pay, until the Board of Management could investigate 14 charges purportedly brought against him. It is the understanding that the suspension was done without the knowledge and approval of the board. The fact of the matter is that the chairman has no authority to execute a suspension of the employee.
Deputy General Secretary of the National Union of Public Workers, Wayne Waldron, also condemned the developments at Princess Margaret, saying it was not in keeping with proper labor practices.
This unprecedented action, if allowed to continue, has implications for other boards and across the public sector. We cannot have a situation where decisions are made to appoint persons, and as we know, appointment is a very focal issue right now where people, and Brother Spencer alluded to it, people want to move on their life with security of tenure, they want mortgages, they can't get financing from the bank. We have people in the system over 20 years in the public service, ridiculous, and are still called temporary, down to the level of general worker, which you call for no qualification. Just a secondary education or primary education, and you on the job, you have the years of experience. And we are saying that this untenable situation must be arrested, and the perpetrators who violate good labor management practice should be called into account.
Meanwhile, President of the Barbados Secondary Union of Teachers, Mary Redmond, said a lack of industrial relations training is responsible for many of the problems the school system is experiencing. She said this was a vexing issue for her union.
Chairpersons and especially keyboard employees like secretary-treasurers have created many problems because of this lack of a basic knowledge of IR principles, procedures, and even of the relevant legislation. Many chairpersons we have found have been influenced by some principals who have their own agendas. And because of their lack of IR exposure and knowledge of legislation, they create and get themselves involved in many breaches of the rights of education workers. Within recent times, we have been experiencing also serious problems with some secretary-treasurers who are acting outside of their authority. We have two very contentious issues being addressed in this regard at the moment. In both cases, the genesis of these matters have been aided and abetted by principals in those schools.
And on to sports, the West Indies defeated Ireland by 5 wickets under the Duckworth-Lewis-Stern system in the final one-day international of the three-match series at the Grenada National Stadium on Sunday. Scores in the match: Ireland 203 off 49.1 overs and the West Indies 199 for 5 off 36.2 overs.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Festive Friday at the Bridgetown Night Market at Pelican Craft Center. Kick off the weekend this Friday from 4 p.m. to midnight with loads of food, drinks, and entertainment. Get ready for Crop Over with the Rhythm Roots Street Parade. Party like it's Kadooman Day on the street around Pelican Village with costume revelers, music, and more. It's Festive Friday. It's Festive Friday at the Bridgetown Night Market at Pelican Village Center from 4 p.m. to midnight. Admission free.
Barbados Today, news you can trust.
To regional news, tourism officials in St. Lucia are over the moon as the island reports record arrivals for 2019. More in this report from HTS News Force.
Despite concerns over the negative impact of Virgin Atlantic's pullout from St. Lucia in June of 2020, the island appears to be making lemonade out of lemons. Tourism Minister Dominic Fede proudly announced that St. Lucia has recorded the highest number of stayover arrivals in its history.
St. Lucia has had a most exceptional year in 2019. We've had our preliminary report which has come in, and it suggests that we have broken a record for the first time in the history of recording tourism statistics in our country. We have recorded over 400,000 stayover arrivals. So coming in at about 422,600 plus visitors, it means that this would have been the best year that we've had in the history of recording St. Lucia statistics.
Fede recognized the contribution of all tourism stakeholders, without whom this achievement would have not been possible.
So coming in at about 422,600 plus visitors, it means that this would have been the best year that we've had in the history of recording St. Lucia statistics.
On the international scene, protests erupted across Iran for a second day on Sunday amid increasing pressure on the Islamic Republic's leadership after it admitted its military shot down a Ukrainian airliner by accident. We get the details from Reuters Television.
The word they are chanting is resignation. Public fury has erupted in Tehran, piling pressure on Iran's leadership after the military admitted mistakenly shooting down a Ukrainian airliner. All 176 on board were killed in Wednesday's missile strike, and many were Iranians. Relatives and friends of those who died held a vigil outside Tehran University on Saturday.
Our children were killed in the sky. That's why we're gathered here. Where do we go?
By the end of the day, the protests had spread. Riot police firing tear gas at thousands on the streets in the capital and a host of other cities. Some chanted death to the dictator, directing their anger at Iran's top authority Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. On Sunday, Tehran residents said police had stepped up their presence. But the criticism is not only coming from the public. At least 2 moderate newspapers on Sunday said those responsible for the tragedy should resign. While criticism of the authorities is not unusual in Iran, it tends to stay in narrow boundaries. But the press attacks and public outcry add to challenges already facing Iran's establishment, which in November saw the country's bloodiest unrest since the 1979 Islamic Revolution.
That's news, but for the very latest, visit our website at www.barbadostoday.bb. You can also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, or like us on Facebook, and sign up for our breaking news alerts via WhatsApp. We're also on Azuma Media in bus terminals as well as Screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. You can also hear us on Mix 96.9 FM and Capital Media HD 99.3 FM.